Sitting posture when you meditate is one of those things that people just keep coming back to. And when they do, the lotus position is the thing that everyone asks. Do I need to sit in the lotus position to meditate? Will it make my meditation come to the next level? Well, the short answer is no, it doesn't really make a lot of a difference. But there are some advantages and some disadvantages to sit in the lotus position. And I'd like to go through them in this video and explain my perspective from someone who has spent 6 years living as a Buddhist monk, and I'd probably averaged 8 hours per day meditation during those 6 years. So I've had a lot of experience both sitting and walking meditation. I've seen thousands upon thousands of people who have sat in all kinds of postures during that time. So I'd like to share my thoughts on whether you actually need to or don't need to sit in the lotus position. Well, that's kind of silly. I just said that you don't need to. But anyway, I have some good stuff to say about it, so just keep on listening. Let's start with the advantages of sitting in the lotus position. There are both what I would call superstitious advantages and actual advantages to sitting in the lotus position. The superstitious advantages would be such a thing as beliefs, like you believe that since masters have empowered this posture with energy, that means that when you sit in it, you can take part of that energy. Or that there are holy and harmonious frequencies or forms and geometry that will improve your meditation. And for me, that is something I would consider superstitious, or at best a belief system, which if you believe it could actually work. So I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying that for me, it's a belief. It's also worth noting that in India, the lotus is a symbol for coming out from the mud, and it goes up and then it blooms. It's a symbol of enlightenment. It's a symbol of spiritual development. It's such an ingrained symbol in the Indian culture that for us in the West, we don't really understand how important it is. So saying the lotus position gives it, just by that name, a very important part in their practice. Now on to what I would consider the real benefits of sitting in this position is that you have a incredibly stable posture, really stable postures. There's not many other postures I can give you, because you get a triangle the way you're sitting, and you're just like sitting like a rock. You're not going to move when you're sitting in that position. You're not going to sway. Well, you can of course sway, but it gives you a very stable base from which to sit in. You also open up your chest, so it's easy to breathe. You have your spine straight, which is something you want. Your pelvis, you want to rotate that forward, so you're not sitting hunched like this, and it just does that automatically. So it is a really good posture from the perspective of it's a good position to sit in from the perspective of getting a good posture. It also gives what I call high energy, or a good focus, because certain postures make it easier to sit. If you just imagine this, if you lie down and you're trying to focus and concentrate, do you think that's going to make you more alert or less compared to if you're standing up or if you're sitting in the lotus position? Certain postures simply give you more awareness than others, and that's not good or a bad thing. It just depends on what you want to do with your meditation. And as I say these things, I also want to point out that this is not something that's unique to the lotus position. There's many other postures you can sit in that give you a great posture in the back, that gives you open chest, that are very stable. You can simply put yourself on a cushion and put your legs cross-legged, and you will have a, see how would that work? It would be you sitting here. Anyway, like that. It would give you, if these are your legs, you would have a triangle, and then you lift your bum up, so you have a really stable base. Then you just put yourself on a meditation cushion, you sit up, you sit very relaxed, and it's a comfortable position to sit in. That's also a way to do the same thing as you would in the lotus position, but without all the negative side effects, which are mainly, I would say that the main disadvantage is the wear and tear physically from sitting in this posture. It is a really extreme way to flex your legs. You're flexing your legs and your whole lower body in a way that it's just not really made to do. You really need to flex up those muscles, and that is something that will eventually wear on you. And I think worth noting is that when I saw people sitting in these centers, I would go to centers where people sit 8, 10, 15 hours per day. They would meditate, and then no one was sitting in the lotus position. I don't think I ever, like a single time, saw one person go to an intensive meditation retreat and actually sit in the lotus position. And we're talking, I've seen thousands upon thousands of people sit, and I just never saw that, because it's not something you do long term. It's more something you do for, I almost said photo shoots, but it's more something you do for short, because it does give you that heightened alertness and it does give you a very good posture, but you just can't do it long term. So if you sit, maybe some people can, but I mean, then there are better things you could focus on than trying to get into that posture. So some people will do this, for instance, if you sit 10 or 15 minutes, but I've also seen people who do videos on YouTube, and when they sit, they do a 10-minute guided meditation, and I see that they don't even sit for 10 minutes while they're filming. They're actually filming like 1.5 minutes and then just looping that, because it is very difficult to sit in that position unless you're really flexible, and it will start bending your knees in a way that they just don't want to go. I guess the reason it's so big in the West is because it's kind of become trendy. It's how we, if I ask you, what does it look like to meditate? If I ask someone who doesn't meditate, what does it look like to meditate? And almost everyone said, okay, you sit in the lotus position and then you put your hands like this in some posture with your yoga nidra. Is that it? I don't actually know. I know it's a yoga position. My fiance teaches yoga, and she showed me these things, and she says you don't really sit in that position much when you meditate, unless for short periods of time. Because if you imagine, if you sit, okay, so we're bending our legs extremely, and then you're doing this with your arms and sitting in a way that's just not ergonomically comfortable to sit. Now do that for 5 minutes, sure, why not? 10 minutes, yeah. 20, maybe. 10 hours, no, you're not going to sit like that for 10 hours. That's just, you're going to get problems with it's just going to wreak havoc on you. So when you sit, instead of thinking of these extreme postures, it's important to sit in a way that is comfortable, that is beneficial for what you want to do. So if you want to relax, then you would lie down. But if you want to do sitting meditation and do insight meditation or concentration meditation or some kind of visualization, then sitting up is a really good position to sit in. And you want it to be comfortable. I generally tend to just put you can't really see it here. I just put my hands as comfortably as possible in my lap. And I would not do this, because doing this after a few hours is going to get really uncomfortable. And even sitting this, I sat so much that I got, I don't know the English word for that, but when you play the guitar and you wear your skin so much that it actually becomes hard. Calluses, is that it? It gets hard. I got that on my hands just from sitting, because I was sitting so much that I actually, the hands just staying together like that, I got sore here from that. So if I would sit like that, the way most people who don't meditate think you're supposed to sit, it just wouldn't work. I would not function if I sat that much. So you don't need to sit in this position. It's something that has become popular, and it's not a bad thing, but if you want to actually sit more seriously longer periods of time, it's something you probably shouldn't even do. And it fosters this idea that if only I could sit in this position, then my meditation would improve. It's the same as if you watch my video about why I became a Buddhist monk. I talked about how if only I could have more money, then I'd be happy. If only I could get that girl, then I'd be happy. If only I could learn this skill, then I'd be happy. It's this belief that I need something else other than what you have. And it's what you can do right now, whatever you can sit in, that's the posture you should have. And if you want to be able to do meditation where you sit in a comfortable way, it actually isn't that difficult. And I made a video where I talk about the tricks that I learned after thousands upon thousands of hours of sitting that make it really simple to get in a posture where you can be relaxed, where you can sit without breaking your knees or going through all this pain. It's still going to be painful if you sit for a long time, but it will minimize the pain and the negative side effects of sitting. So I recommend you watch that here if that's something that you're interested in.